A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
As you know, on a Wednesday, we like to pause and take a moment to reflect on the developments that are happening around the nation of Israel. Of course, we see Israel as God's chosen people. That would be a biblical way of reflecting on the people today. Mandy Worby spends lots of time just keeping up with the issues as they're happening, and Mandy's back with us. Hey, Mandy, welcome back.
Nice to be with you, Neil.
Mandy, last week we were talking about that speculation as to whether the nation of Qatar would expel Hamas leaders from their kingdom. Any developments you can report?
Well, initially they were saying, they're going to be expelled. As soon as the US presidential election took place, it was suddenly, Qatar is thinking about getting rid of these guys. And then an official release came out and said, no, we're not going to do that. Well, they're gone. Qatar actually has expelled them from their kingdom. They're currently in Turkey. Now, this is problematic because Turkey is a member of NATO. And NATO, which I've got quotes here in front of me from NATO's playbook with regard to their counter-terrorism measures, the fact that a NATO member is not just harbouring and protecting a designated terrorist organisation, designated by quite a few of the member nations of NATO, is highly problematic because they're undermining their ethos. And so it's kind of like a watch this space with this regard. Now, just this morning I saw a headline that said both Qatar and Turkey have said, no, Hamas are just here. It's just temporary. But who knows? First of all, Qatar said they weren't going to expel them at all. So we really don't know what's going to happen with this. But what is absolutely certain is that Israel has said point blank, they will not engage in any kind of mediation should the Turks decide that they want to be the mediators, considering how President Erdogan and the Turkish people have treated and accused Israel. There's no way they're going to get into any kind of negotiations with Turkey as the mediator.
Interesting, isn't it, the way the pieces begin to move on the chessboard of the Middle East, and now that there is the assurance that Donald Trump is taking the presidency, not really until the 20th of January, but what's the Israeli side of things here? What sort of reactions have come from, say, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
Well, as soon as the election took place, this massive, great big billboard, huge on the side of a building, went up in Tel Aviv that said something along the lines of, "Congratulations, President Trump, make Israel great again." Excuse me. So that was really quite interesting. Most Israelis are very happy that Trump is in power. And so is Bibi. In fact, Bibi has he's basically come out and admitted since Donald Trump's election that they actually did strike one of Iran's nuclear sites. Now, remember when they went in and they struck a lot of very strategic military sites, a lot of people said, well, that was a kind of a fizzer. It didn't really seem to achieve much. And in the days following, we learned actually those very strategic sites that Israel took out in Iran were Iran's ability to see anything coming, so they're sitting ducks, took out military installations, took out weapons manufacturers. No more ballistic missiles can be manufactured there. No more drones can be manufactured there. Really left them very vulnerable. And remember, the Biden administration said, don't touch anything nuclear, don't touch any oil. And so Israel just went in and took those out. Well, turns out that they actually did hit a secret nuclear facility. Now, Bibi has said that certain components in Iran's nuclear program were harmed in the strike, but he has emphasised that Iran is still a very serious nuclear threat and that the plan itself, its ability to act against Israel, has still not been thwarted. They've basically delayed things. So Iran is still an existential threat. Maybe they've just put a little bit of a pause on it. Although the nuclear arms proliferation organisation, the international one, I've got that name wrong, they actually expected Iran's facilities and said they're basically a whisker away from being a nuclear power. So this is really dangerous stuff.
Come back to the US again. There's going to be a change of government there. Trump's going to be the new president. There's always a clean sweep of who does what in a diplomatic sense too.
Yeah.
And so Israel has a new US ambassador that will be looking after affairs and the relationship there. What's the development here?
Well, the new ambassador to Israel from America is going to be former Governor Mike Huckabee. Now, remember Sarah Sanders Huckabee? She was Donald Trump's press secretary for a time. She is now the governor of, I believe, Arkansas. So Mike Huckabee is like beyond excited about getting into Israel, and so are the Israeli people, I might add, because Mike Huckabee has been a great advocate and friend of Israel for a very long time, and it's kind of like wow, let's wait and see what comes of this, because he is, well, let's just say a lot of people are very excited. I'm one of them about him going.
Okay, let's talk about some of the issues and videos and those sorts of things that are disseminated online. And of course, we all wonder about the genuineness of all of the things we might see online. We're always cautious, but what have you been noting around things that are happening from Gaza and the Hamas organisation?
Yeah, I subscribe to, I cannot even tell you how many news sites I subscribe to, so many of them. And there is some footage that is circulating online. It was posted by a Gazan civilian, and it was of a truck being fired upon by Hamas terrorists, and it killed 23 Gazans. Now, the people taking the truck, they were actually accessing the free international aid that is given to them, to the people. Hamas said they were thieves. They hit that truck, blew it up, and killed 23 of them. You see, Hamas actually they are the thieves who steal the international aid, the free stuff for the people, and then they sell it at huge inflated prices, like huge. Like I just saw one Gazan man, he bought a bag of sugar, was for 23 shekels, which is a lot of money for a bag of sugar. When you open it up, it was filled with sand. Right, so they're being ripped off in the most horrendous ways. And so there was some questions given to the UN by a reporter about the number of trucks, aid trucks, that are being confiscated by Hamas. Now, the reporter said, and I got this from Jewish Breaking News, and the reporter said in the past 24 hours, 97 aid trucks entered Gaza to deliver essential supplies, but reports suggest they were looted, allegedly by Hamas operatives, with stolen aid reportedly sold on the black market. When asked, a UN spokesperson, I heard him say this myself, he responded by saying, we're not asking questions. Okay, so he went on to say that when they've got people are there with guns and weapons, and we're not asking questions, and we're not seeing any insignias on there, so we can't say who's taking it. But what we know categorically is that Hamas operatives wear civilian clothing when they're in fight mode, because if they die in combat, they want to be seen as civilians so that can be used as a battering ram against Israel. So Hamas is stealing the food and the aid, selling it on the black market, getting rich off free international aid that Israel is sending in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trucks every day. And the world is still saying, especially the US, you have to do more about international aid for the Gazans. What that means is the world is demanding that Israel keep feeding and aiding and abetting Hamas while the Gazan civilians continue to suffer. It's dreadful.
And, of course, we might have a soft spot for the Gazan civilians, but yes, it does muddy the waters when you recognise things like that are happening.
Yeah.
Hey, let's turn our attention to the north, into Lebanon, and as I understand it, there's some Hezbollah influence in attacks on the United Nations presence there, or peacekeepers that have been working in that area.
Yeah. The Jerusalem Post and others, I might add, other newspapers have reported that multiple UNIFIL, the UNIFIL bases, were hit by rocket fire just Tuesday morning, so that it would have been Wednesday, late Tuesday, our time. And in the afternoon, 4 peacekeepers were wounded in the attacks. Now, Hezbollah were the ones who fired the rockets. It was not the IDF. The UNIFIL admitted, they're saying that the rocket was, quote, fired most likely by non-state actors within Lebanon. And it's interesting to me that they won't name Hezbollah, either because they don't want to admit that or they're too afraid to admit it. But it's not Israel that's targeting.
And I know that there are some ceasefire talks that have been talked about for some time, and no doubt they're still going on. Interestingly, it seems to be that in some mainstream media, the ceasefire talks are with the government of Lebanon. That's just not the case, though?
Well, here's the problem. Everybody is saying, look, the Lebanese government, they want peace, right? They want to get their country back. And they're fed up with Hezbollah, and many of them are speaking out against Hezbollah. And the world is saying to Israel, you need to make a peace deal with the government of Lebanon. And Israel's going, we're not at war with the government of Lebanon. We're not fighting against the Lebanese army. The Lebanese army has not engaged with Israel because they're not at war. The war is between Hezbollah, who started this war back on October 8, 2023, and have lobbed, between October 2023 and when Israel went in, over 15,000 rockets. It's well over that now. So Hezbollah is the one that they're fighting with, not the Lebanese people, not the Lebanese government, not the Lebanese army. So how is Israel supposed to come to a peace agreement with, or a ceasefire agreement with somebody they're not actually firing against when when they want to have a ceasefire agreement with Hezbollah, who have determined that they are never going to stop? That's their own words. We will never stop.
Things look a little different, don't they, when you drill down just a little deeper and see some of the details. Hey, come back to the US for a few moments, because a change of government, and you've got Joe Biden who's on his way out.
Yeah.
What have reports been saying about him and his reactions to things that are going on in Israel and around the groups that are attacking Israel?
Yeah, see, politics is a really dirty game, Neil, and it's almost like in order to take out or make it difficult for your political opponent, you'll actually hurt and harm and set up other innocents in order to do that and make it difficult. And we don't have time to go on and talk about what's been going on with Ukraine and Russia and Germany and, oh my goodness, what's going on there. And Putin's saying, because, well, very briefly, Biden gave permission to the Ukrainians to use long-range ballistic missiles directly against Russia. And Putin said, if they're used, I'm not ruling out nuclear weapons in response. Ukraine has actually used those weapons, those rockets, now and taken out of weapons storage in Russia. And everybody's going, what on earth is Putin going to do? And Germany has also said, we're going to be supplying Ukraine with weapons as well. And everybody's holding their breath. But what President Biden has done, and it's almost like he's trying to set something up here to make it really difficult for Trump. He has imposed more sanctions against some construction companies in Israel that are helping Jewish communities build up in Judea and Samaria, where the world calls it the West Bank. They've built where nobody lives on Israeli sanctioned governed land. And so they're being treated as these vile, horrible, demonic settlers who are just out, they're just like the terrorists of the West Bank, which they're not. But these are businesses being targeted. Now, we can only hope and pray that when the new administration comes in, that this will all be sorted. But what's really problematic here is that President Biden is taking the list of these so-called bad actors, Israeli bad actors, from an organisation, a non-profit, anti-Israel group called Dawn Mina, which is actually attached to the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a designated terror group, and they're believing their word against the Israeli word, who are their allies. So, you know, it's like innocents get trampled underfoot in the game of politics. It's a bit nasty.
No lack of dimensions to keep us interested as Christian believers,
and
as we're observing. Yes, and prayer for the peace of Jerusalem has a lot of dimensions to it. And Mandy, always appreciate your insights. Thanks for that update today on 2020.
My pleasure.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.